And we're going to go live on YouTube. And let's get the page. Okay, everyone, we're going to be studying Sanhedrin 98. Should be A. Okay. Let's go back a page. Okay, we're in the middle of page 98A. We're studying about the days leading up to Moshiach. Hey, Avi, just starting in the middle of page 98. Tzadik Ches Amud Aleph 98A. In middle of discussing the simanim, the signs of the coming of Moshiach, and it looks like the subject goes on for a while. So Omer Rabbi Chanina said like this, that Ein Bein David, let me just make sure I have here. Yeah, Ein Bein David ba ad she is bakesh dog lechoylev lo yimatze. Hey, Bruce. So we're middle of page 98a. So Rabbi Chanina says Ben David, the son of David, meaning to say the Mashiach, won't come until they're going to be seeking fish for the sick as a remedy for the sick or food for the sick, and they're not going to be able to find. Like it says, Shnemer az ashkia mimehem v'naraisam keshemen oilich. I'll make their waters clear and cause their rivers to run like oil, meaning, like he says, that the rivers will come to a standstill like oil, as opposed to rushing water. And then it says after that, v'chziv basrei, and because of the fact that the rivers won't flow, it's going to affect the ability to find fish. Others hold, I think Rashi, that it's going to be like ice. So if all the rivers and water sources are going to freeze over to ice, so there's going to be no access to the fish. The cost of Asrei, and the verse continues and says, on that day, Atzmiach Keren Leveis Yisrael. On that day, I will cause the glory of the house of Israel to flourish, meaning that's a sign, Atzmiach from the word Tzemach, which is a reference to the days of the Mashiach. So Rashi says, Kishemen Oilich, Shi Yihiyu Kulan Kafuyin. It's going to be frozen. Kafu is frozen. The Rabbi Steinsaltz translates the idea that it's like going to be like oil, so it stands still like oil. But either way, it's going to affect that the waters won't be available for fishing. They're not going to have fish available. Although we all know in America there's the concept of or other places where they fish in the ice, but I guess it's going to be in such a way that the ice is going to be it's going to be so frozen that the fish won't be available or they won't have access to the fish. He says he quotes the Ein Yaakov says that fish are good for if you're sick. It says dagim tovim l'cholim. Fish is good for sick. Therefore, the pasuk is talking about. Reb Chanina says you'll be looking for fish for the sick, and it says fish are fruitful and multiply, and they're very good for all kind of health reasons for people. So till today, we know the power of fish, and so they're not going to have access to fish in the days leading up to Mashiach. Again, you have to understand what that means. In what sense is that literal, or is it a reference or a hint to something else? Amar Rab Chamri bar Chanina, Rab Chama, the son of Chanina, says, Ein ben David ba, then David won't come, meaning the son of Mashiach won't come, Ad shetichle malchus hazolam Yisrael, until the malchus, the kingdom of Zola, which is it's a reference of zilzul, of things that are not good, a not good kingdom. Some people say that's referring to Rome or others. So shetichle malchus hazolam Yisrael shenemer v'choros hazalzalim b'mazmeiros. And it says, and you shall sever the springs of Zalzalim with pruning hooks. So there's going to be no Malchus, no kingdom of Zala. Hey, Aaron. V'chziv basreis, what's the connection to Mashiach? Because it says afterwards, V'esahi, at that time, when there's going to be, God's going to get rid of the kingdom of the Zalzalim from our midst, it says, V'esahi, Yuval Shaila Hashem, Sevakais Am Memushach Umemoiret. It says, in that time shall be present, shall a present be brought to the Lord of hosts by the people scattered and hairless, meaning to say a reference to the Jewish people coming back in the days of Moshiach. So Rashi says, what's to mean? Tikala malcha hazala shloi tehelem shum shaltanis lisrael afilu shaltanis kala v'dala. That there will be no from Rashi, it seems like there'll be no kingdom within Israel. Even any kind of a light rule, meaning any kind of organization, government won't be functioning properly in Israel, in Eretz Yisrael. And it says, "Natishais anofim ketanim klemer hasarim v'ashoiftim." They're going to get rid of the judges and the ministers are going to be uprooted. So there's going to be no organization. That's how Rashi learns. Rashi says that Malchus Hazala Vadala Misro Shleiti Bisrael Malchus Klal. There won't be any kingdom within Israel, within the Jewish people. But the Marsha says that we could be talking about that it's referencing to Rome, Malchus Edom. So it says Katuka. Why does it? Because the verse says Becharas Hazalzalim B'Marzerais. It says that like it says about Rome. Hey, Sharno, middle page 98a. So it says about Rome that Katan Begoyim Nasaticha. Bazi atem od. So it says the word bazoi, which is like zalzalim, referring to Rome. V'zeu shnemer v'charas hazalzalim, which is referring to Rome. That Rome won't anymore be a threat to the Jewish people. Rome doesn't just mean Rome as in the city Rome. What it represents today, you could say it's alluding to Christian or Western society. And the word mazmeira is also the word zimrois, like singing the songs of Tehillim, that which talks about the days of the redemption. So the power of Tehillim. So there won't be the kingdom of Rome. So the Rashi says that it's two opposites actually, because if you want to know the sign of Moshiach, Reb Chanina says it seems like either there's going to be no government within Eretz Yisrael, or there's going to be no government in Rome to fight against Eretz Yisrael. To oppress the Jewish people. So it's two different signs. It depends how you learn it, according to Rashi, according to the Marsha. So Rabbi Steinsaltz here says, Rav Steinsaltz, that some explain this to mean that there will be no, there will not be even an insignificant Bengin of a domination over the Jewish people who will be completely independent. Okay, I don't know. That hasn't happened for 2,000 years, including our time. Being completely independent means you're able to do whatever you want without having to ask others. The Gaonim explain that it's again, he refers to what the Marsha says, it's referring to the Roman Empire, which treated the Jewish people with contempt. So according to the Gaonim, again, it's talking about that the Romans won't rule, or it's talking about there won't be no any kind of rule over the Jewish people. He doesn't. Rav Steinsaltz does not bring down Rashi, which is talking about that there's going to be a lack of government by the Jewish people. Amr Zeiri, Amr Rab Chanina. So Zeiri said in the name of Rab Chanina, Ein ben David ba ad yichlu gasei ruach Misrael. That's a tall order. Rab Zeiri, the son of Chanina, says, or in the name of Rab Chanina says, that Ben David, the king of David, won't come until there will no longer be gasei ruach, egotistic people amongst the Jewish people. It means there won't be people that will be suffering from arrogance, like he says. I'm going to take amongst. I'm going to remove from your midst your proudly exalted ones, those who are feeling over other people, arrogant people. And it says afterwards, "Visharti b'kirbech am ani v'dol b'chasu b'shem Hashem." It says, "I'll leave amongst you the poor lowly people that will take refuge." Chasu is refuge in the name of God. So arrogance won't be amongst the Jewish people. And what will be amongst the Jewish will only be people with humility and taking refuge from Hashem. Like Rashi says, "Chasu b'shem Hashem kleimar shetave lehem geula v'yachsu b'tzel shakai." They're going to find redemption, Rashi says, and they're going to take refuge in the so to say the shadow of God. I think he quotes over here. He quotes it. I'm not sure if it's the Marsha. It's the Marsha. That says, well, what's the connection between getting rid of arrogance and ego and the Moshiach? And an amazing idea. It's a known thing. Chassidus brings this many times. God doesn't do well with egotistic people. So Moshiach is a revelation of godliness. So arrogance it doesn't make space for God. It says, Ki ikar galus, what's the main thing of galus is siluk hashchina, that there's no revelation of godliness. And the Baal Gaiva, the person who has ego, pushes the feet of the Moshiach, of the God, of godliness, doesn't allow for godliness to manifest in the world. So as long as there's arrogance and ego in the world, there's no space for revelation of godliness. So like I said, it's a tall order. There's obviously levels of that, but you have to have at least the basics. Amr Rab Simlai. Rab Simlai says, Mishum Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon, in the name of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. He says like this: Ein ben David ba. This is getting from better to from point to point on point. He says Ein ben David ba achichel kol shayftim v'shaytim Yisrael. Moshiach won't come. The son of David won't come until there no longer yichlu means we get rid of, or there will be no longer any judges or police amongst the Jewish people. Like it says, Vashiva Yadi Alaich ve'etzroif kaboris sigoyich. Sigoyich is like sigim. Sigim is uprooting the bad alloys, the dross that's in silver. So you have to refine it, getting rid of the bad. He's referring to bad judges and bad police. Vashiva Shavtaich, and then the famous verse, Vashiva Shavtaich varishona, that God is going to bring back the proper judges, the judges of the Sanhedrin. It's known. The Rambam quotes that clearly in the Halacha. We talk about the days coming up to Moshiach, that the pasuk Vashiva Shavtaich varishona, that the Sanhedrin has to be reestablished before the coming of the Moshiach. And the Rambam says it's an amazing tradition. He says that we have a Messiah. That where is it going to be reestablished? Not in Jerusalem or not in Tel Aviv, but it's going to be reestablished in Tveria. And the Messiah is that in Tveria is where it is going to be the reestablishment of the Sanhedrin. And how that's going to happen and who's going to, funny that we're learning Rav Steinsaltz's Gemorah, version of the Gemorah. He himself, about 20 years ago, tried to reestablish the Sanhedrin in Tveria. He wanted to start this process of Vashiva Shavtaich Varishena, Rav Steinsaltz, to start setting up the Sanhedrin in Tveria. Tveria is a city, I was just there this week. Tveria is a city that's not, it's one of the four holy cities of Eretz Yisrael, but it never got its footing. It doesn't have the charisma or the charm of Tzfas. It's obviously not Jerusalem. It's not Hebron, and it's kind of never.
He wasn't able to do it.
I don't know what happened. I remember I was around in Eretz Yisrael. He was trying to reestablish the Sanhedrin in Tveria. But the tradition is that the Sanhedrin is. The Rambam says this, not in the Gemorah Nevuchim. He says it in the Yad HaChazaka, which is a book of halachas. That the halacha is that the judges will reestablish in Tveria. Tveria is not really much of a city, but what's interesting enough is the reason I was in Tveria this week is because it's the yahrzeit of the Rambam was the 20th of Tevis. Today's the 22nd, the 21st. But yesterday was the yahrzeit of the Rambam, and he's buried in Tveria. So he was buried where he believes where he paskins the Sanhedrin will reestablish itself.
It was my mother's yahrzeit too today and the night before.
What's her name?
Razel, Razel, yeah.
Razel Bas. What's her father's name?
Yosef.
Razel Bas Yosef is Shem Shav and Elisha. She should be a Melech Yosher and an advocate for you and the family.
Thank you.
So again, so he quotes, but what you see clearly over here, and again, we're not trying to mix politics or anything into our study here of Torah, but we see that Eretz Yisrael was been shaped. It has been the past 5 years. I mean, before this whole story, while we're still in it. In this whole idea of the Supreme Court. So we see that clear verse that says there's going to be an issue with the Shoftim and Shoftim until Vashiva Shavtaich Varishena. So it says, Sigim ta'aruva is the mixing of things that are not good is Badila Chamudam L'Rashiyam. Those people separated for themselves for the heads of the people are not going to no longer be there. Now there's all kind of commentaries on this idea about the judges being uprooted from the Jewish people. He quotes the Gemorah Shabbos and Daf Kuf Lamed Tes that says that God is not going to come back to rest among the Jewish people until the bad judges and institutions of police will be uprooted from the Jewish people. And the connection is because we know that just like we said before, that a person who has ego pushes away God. It says someone who judges din emes, kol dayin shedan din emes, a judge that judges a true judgment according to Torah. Is connected, is a shutef, is a partnership with God. So again, these are all signs. The Adramai quotes that's going to be not so much that it's going to be uprooting bad judges, but there's going to be no law and order in Eretz Yisrael. It says it's going to happen like it did in the days of the judges, right? In the book of Judges, it finishes off that Isha Yasher Be'ein of Yasa. Everyone's going to do whatever they want. There's going to be no system of government, of law and order. And that's when Mashiach is going to come. The Yad Ramah says that's when the Shiva Shaftayach, that's when the judgment is the institutions of judgment will come back to the Jewish people.
So rather than meriting it, it sounds like at the worst hour, it's a saving.
Yeah, from the Gemorah that we're learning now, the different Gemorahs that we're learning and we're going to continue to learn, the message is kind of that the negative signs for Mashiach means chaos, institutions of government are not going to be running, but also we see there's others who are leaning towards positive signs. Again, I just want to say something. These are all signs. We spoke last week about the one of the signs. Hold on, Aaron. One of the signs being that there's going to be fruits and vegetables for export in Eretz Yisrael. That you have to take that with a grain of salt. Meaning to say that's not Mashiach. That's a sign of Mashiach. It's not the same thing. That's where people kind of get confused when the fruits and vegetables is Mashiach, right? That's a sign that that is Mashiach because we're able to export fruits and vegetables. It's a very good thing. It's good that Yisrael has that ability to do it, but that's not Mashiach. That's a sign of the days coming up to Mashiach. Yes, Aaron.
How does this keep with the Rebbe's trying to keep a view of positivity signs?
The Rebbe went through every single one of these subjects in the Talmud and tried to give it the Rebbe's idea was, first of all, that it's a famous thing, a famous concept that how you translate something is sometimes how it ends up being. If you think negative, if you think negative thoughts about signs, that kind of manifests that it should be negative. The Rebbe tried to do everything positive. We had enough negativity in our lives. The Rebbe tried to find it positive. So the Rebbe would look in all these situations and try to show how it could be a positive sign, like young people rebelling against the old people doesn't mean that they're going to be rebelling, but they're going to bring them back to tshuva, etc. It's a rebelling against the mindset.
Yes, but isn't the scriptural source for this that, and I think it's the Zohar, that basically if the people don't merit Mashiach coming by a certain, then it will happen anyway by a certain date, but it will be preceded by all of these negative, terrible things.
That's very good. So that's
this and that. Yeah.
That's very good. That's not the Zohar. That's actually a Talmud that we're about to learn soon. It's from the Talmud Be'ita of Achishena. If it's going to be on time, or it's going to be, its deadline, or if it's going to be. I just want to say, last week I was in Shul. Non-Chabad person was talking. I say non-Chabad because it's not someone who's has that yearning and urging that the Rebbe gave us to waiting for Moshiach. But a person who was actually from South Africa was talking to another person. I eavesdropped on conversation, and I think he lost his mother at some point. And he said that he saw in a sefer, and I Googled it, I can't find it. He saw in a sefer that says that 200 years before Moshiach, before the deadline, we learned 2 weeks ago about that the world is only 6,000 years. You have to remember something. We didn't get into most of the opinions are that the days of Mashiach are in those 6,000 years. We're 5,785. According to the Talmud, literally the world has 215 years left. And in that time has to be the days of Mashiach, because the Chad Charuv, the 7,000 years starts a new kind of age. Like the Gemara says, no one's going to be alive, however you want to translate that. But it's not, the early days of Mashiach are definitely going to be before the 7,000 year. This person was saying, he saw in a sefer that says that the resurrection of the dead is going to start by the year Tuf Tuf. Tuf Tuf, Hey Tuf Tuf is 5,800. We're 5,785. That means resurrection of the dead starts in 15 years. If you think about it, 15 years is not a lot of time. So it's kind of, it's really getting close. Yeah, but you're saying, Sharon is right. There is the idea that if it's Be'ita B'achishena, and we're going to see that a little bit in the Talmud now, also in the commentaries. So he says like this, Amar Ula says, this is a famous Gemara that says, Amar Ula ein Yushalayim nifteis elabitstaka. Jerusalem will only be redeemed with charity, acts of charity and goodness. Shenemar, this is the famous verse, and the Rebbe would quote it all the time, especially in the months of Av, Tzion, because this is the end of the Haftorah of Shabbos Chazon. Tzion b'mishpat tipada v'shaveha b'tzedakah. Zion will be mishpat tipada, will be redeemed with mishpat, with judgment, v'shaveha, and its returnees, or its return, will be through charity. You could learn Shaveha means the return of Zion, meaning that's what he's saying. Yishalayim will be redeemed with tzedakah, or the returnees, those who are been captive, will be returned with charity. Omer, he says, uses the word righteousness as opposed to tzedakah as charity. Okay. Omer Rav Papa says, Ibotli ihire botli amgushe. Again, seems like the biggest obstacle to Moshiach, one of the biggest obstacles to Moshiach is behavioral issues, not so much things that are out of our control, but things that are within our control, like ego and arrogance. So Reb Papa says, Ibatle yihire, if arrogance will cease to exist, then Batle amgushe. Amgushe is the sorcerers from Persia. Reb Papa lived in Bavel, so under, I guess, the Persian rule at that time. So there'll be no more the sorcerers. It means negativity in the world is a reflection, Kamaim Lepanim is a reflection of our own deeds. If we're arrogant, so the forces against us are powerful to hurt us. Ibatle dayana. And if we get rid of deceitful judges, is batloi gazirfate. So the gazirfate, which are the taskmasters, also people that are oppressing the Jewish people, won't be there. So again, oppression and negativity is a reflection of our own behavior. It's not like we're sitting there, according to Reb Papa, it's not we're sitting there and like Moshe. What did Moshe say in last week's parsha? When he saw Dasim and Avin fighting, he said, Rashi says, what does it mean now I know? He didn't, not now I know, not that Paro knows that I murdered, that he killed the Egyptian that was beating the Jew. Now I know why the Jewish people were in exile, because he sees the way they were behaving to each other. He saw that Dasim and Avin were fighting. So he said, Davar. So the same thing over here, Rav Papa and Ula, they're saying, Rav Papa says that to get rid of negativity, get rid of Yehira, get rid of arrogance, you won't have the Amgushe, the sorcerers, whatever they do. And get rid of bad judges, get rid of the taskmasters that are doing negative things to the Jewish people. He says, Ibatla Yehira Batla Amgushe, how do we know? So it says, the verse says, Ve'etzroiv kabar sigayach, he says again, you're going to get rid of purge away your dross, which is sigim, bad elements within silver, vasira kol bediloyach, and with lay, and I will remove all your alloy. Botli dayone, botli gazirfite, and if you get rid of bad judges, we get rid of the zartife. It says the chsiv heiser shem mishpatayich pinoy vayach, that if you get rid of deceitful judges, the royal officers will cease. So the judgment against the Jewish people comes because of negative things that are happening amongst us. Again, a lot of people take these Gemorahs to be judgmental. And those who come to my other classes know my opinion about judging and labeling situations after October 7th. A lot of people, unfortunately, were using thoughts that they understood from these Gemorahs to label reasons of why negative things happen and horrible things happen and murder and etc. and worse than that happen. It doesn't work like that. But the Gemara is just letting us know that it doesn't mean that you have to just sit there and continue to be arrogant and you have to sit there and be a deceitful judge. There has to be accountability to a certain extent. Okay, so the Yad Ramah says, what does Yehari mean? Yehari can mean arrogance, but the Yad Ramah says it's worse than arrogance. It's Hanifim. Hanifa means people that are sucking up, so to say, to the higher powers or the Gentiles. And he says worse than that. It says Mari Atzim Kir Shemayim, fakeness. He says they show themselves as God fearing, but really they're wicked. And if you get rid of the fake people, so too the machshafim, the sorcerers, which torture the Jewish people. Sorcery is also kind of not real. So when people are not real, the people are going to pretend like they're righteous, and they're really not. So then the people that are doing that to the Jewish people are not going to be around anymore. And he said the idea of a chanif, he says, someone who's so to say pretending to be better than they are, is a person who doesn't want to project their honesty. They want to project a certain image, but they're really not living up to that image. Okay, but Rashi says, what's Yehiri? Yehiri means gasei ruach, arrogance from the Jewish people. Amagushi is parsayim. Those are the Persians, machashim, that were sorcerers, shemasaris Yisrael, that they would use their sorcery as a method of hurting the Jewish people. Depends what kind of negativity they're doing, but one way or another, it's not fun for the Jewish people. So get rid of arrogance and we won't have that problem. Listen, if you want to have a conversation, a theological conversation about if the Jewish people have done anything over the years to justify anti-Semitism, we don't believe that, because you can't. Anti-Semitism doesn't have a reason. But it doesn't help to be arrogant. Let's put it that way. Gazir fite, shoiftim oivde kachavim hachoiftim es Yisrael makalis. What does it mean? The people that beat the Jewish people. So get rid of bad judges, and you won't have those people either. If you get rid of the bad alloys, the bad remedies within, so say the metals, the pure metals, then you get rid of the things that are separating you. Gushe is havdalim yiras hamakim. They separate you from fear of God. Sagicha is like says Rav the it's translated in Targum as sagi, which are bad alloys. Mishpatecha sheiftecha, your judges. Ponevecha gezirfati, that the enemies are the zirfati. That's what Rabbi Steinzat says. It says the old Persian Magas, a tribe that served as priests during the Persian era. The members of the tribe represented the Persian cult, and therefore were seen as representatives of idol worship. The Gemorah Shabbos, he quotes. Therefore, the term amugush, is utilized as an epithet. How do you pronounce that? These people, especially in Babylonia, were viewed as sorcerers and charlatans who would whisper enchantments, and they even themselves did not understand. No one understood what was kind of weird stuff that they were doing that affected the Jewish people. Okay, a Gazir Fiteh is an officer in Iranian and Persian. Okay. So those people won't be there if there's bad judges or there's bad arrogance. So then the Jewish people will find that they will be oppressed. But if we get rid of it, it will help rid of our oppression. Rabbi Yochanan says, it's a famous Gemorah. Rabbi Yochanan says, if you see a generation that is, things are getting less and less when it comes to Torah study, less people know, less knowledge, is chakalei, then you should wait for the Moshiach. Shnemer, am oni teshia, and people that are oni, that are have poverty teshia, are going to have salvation. Rabbi Yochanan also says, if you see a generation that are being afflicted with tsaras, like a raging river, right? Jewish people, we've experienced all that when we say that all these deadlines have passed, is not only because the deadlines have passed, we experienced all these things. So if you see that the tsaras are multiple like a river, chakelei, know that Moshiach is coming. Like it says, Ki yave kinar tzach v'ruach Hashem noisasaboy. It says when the stress will come like a river, then the breath of the Lord drives and will elevate the person out of that. And like after that it says Uvalatzi and Goyal, that Moshiach is going to come. Uvalatzi, and God is going to come and redeem the Jewish people. So
it seems to me like since we haven't been able to solve the problems that we have, that only Moshiach can do it, because we haven't been able to do it on our own.
That's correct. Listen, we did learn last week that Rav says that Mashiach is going to come with tshuva. Chassidus definitely takes the view of Rav that Mashiach is going to come with tshuva, but tshuva comes from the way actually the Rebbe has a famous discourse on this week's parsha called the Frum of Vayera, which talks about this idea of any Yisrael Nigol Na'el b'tshuva, the Jewish people will only be redeemed with repentance. To mean that there's certain things in life that the only way to get there is through repentance. It means there's the what's called the Or Yasha, the direct light, to just try to be perfect. The problem with reading, I don't want to use the problem, the challenge of learning such a Gemorah is that it creates an anxiety to try to be perfect. Like you're saying, we're not going to be able to do it on our own. Mashiach is going to have to come and save us. So the problem is that if people are trying to do it with perfection, it's usually going to be counterproductive. There's an idea of any Yisrael in the Golden of Tshuva, try to leapfrog that whole perfection and just return to Hashem with tshuva, with going beyond yourself, as opposed to trying to make everything perfect. Why is this person being arrogant? This person is going to mess it up for us. There's a lot of that. Ideas where we're trying to get others to be perfect in order to bring the Moshiach, as opposed to just a union of a mission of tshuva. Yes, Barbara.
I was just going to say, I was reading in the Tanya today, because I do a daily study, and it was saying that what we really need to focus on is, moving from when we feel that closeness with Hashem during prayer, when we're out of prayer, having that with us all throughout the day and not just when we're praying. Consistency,
yeah, 100%. Rabbi Yochanan says like this. Here's the same. This is another famous Gemorah, that Mashiach is going to come in an extreme environment. either everyone's going to be zakai, worthy, or everyone's going to be unworthy, chayiv. But it's not going to be parv. What we're seeing a little bit, and we could see it in today's days, we surely see it in today's days, that we're kind of living where people are putting their foot down and saying what they feel. You don't have to agree with what they feel. But the idea of just, hiding it, throwing it on the rug, trying to get through, and people at least what you want, if you want to talk positive about today's days, at least you don't have to agree with the discussion. You don't have to agree with the conclusion. But at least what the people are saying what they're feeling. If they hate, or they have this, they like to do this, or they don't like to do that, they have an opinion, or whatever it is, it's all coming up to the surface. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. It's not going to be this kind of pariv. There's an expression, pariv is treif. Either your milk or your meat. You have to make it the choice. So this idea of pariv lasts for so long. Pariv is something that's neither meat or dairy. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Moshiach is going to come, either in the door is going to be kulei zakai, everyone's going to be righteous, worthy, or kulei chayiv, or unworthy. B'darshu kulei zakai, how do we know? There's a verse, right? Your people are all tzaddikim, are all righteous, and therefore your sharetz, they will inherit the land. B'darshu kulei chayiv, how do we know that Moshiach will come then? It says, V'yar ki ein ish, and there's no one around. There's no one around. V'shtaimim ki ein mafkia. V'chsiv lemani esa, so God's going to look around and see there's no one around. So who am I going to bring the Mashiach for? Lamani, like we say the pasuk. Lamani esa. Do it for yourself. I'm doing it for myself. God, because there's no one worthy of Mashiach. So Rashi says, Yeshua Tzanigula. What does it mean to inherit the land? Listen, this is a very deep Rashi, even though it's two words. Inheriting the land, people could say that just coming to the land of Eretz Yisrael means redemption. So he says, no. Yeshua Aretz means geula, redemption. The proper redemption. It's not just, you can't just show up to the land and say Mashiach's here. Yerusha Aretz means geula, not just being in the land. He makes a definition. Take that as you will. So Rabbi Steinzal says, B'dar shukulei zaka kulei chayev. So Rabbi Steinzal says, some explain that the generation, there will be no hypocrisy. See, everyone will be either guilty or will unshamefully display their wickedness in public, or entirely innocent. The innocent of that generation will behave righteously, not in order to garner reward, but for the sake of heaven. This is the Gra. The Gra says that it's going to be, people are going to be the way they are, and I am who I am, and people are going to say their opinion. And we're seeing that actually in our generation. That idea that kuli zaka kuli chayiv is not going to be this kind of, we have to fit into a certain way of thinking. You don't have to agree with my way of thinking, but at least let me express it. On the side, Marsha says, what does it mean? Again, the great Marsha says, what does it mean, a door that's truly righteous? How do you define truly righteous? So the Marsha says, V'yasu tshuva ritzonis. They're going to do proper, serious tshuva, and then the redemption will come. Or shedar kulechayv la yirtulais tshuva. What does the Marsha says? I mean, a generation that's found to be chayiv, to be unworthy, so to say, is that they're not going to want to do tshuva. They're not going to want to repent. And the Marsha then quotes our Gemorah that we learned last week. God's going to bring a harsh king, and they're going to have to do tshuva by force, and then the Mashiach is going to come. The Gula is going to come. Towards Chaim, he quotes that. That he sees the Torah Chaim goes into the generations, that throughout the generations Hashem saw the people that were full of audacity, so he kind of sprinkled both negative and positive people in the world, so it shouldn't be overwhelmed at a certain time. So therefore he says, V'kasher nira, when you see Dar Shekulei Zaka, Kulei Chai, V'echach, Shenigmar Cheshman Hadoris Harois Lias Adimes Mashiach, Vaz Vadiyev Mashiach Min David. So Torah Chaim says basically that it says that the Zohar says that or the Gemorah says that we saw that God saw that there's a milad, that only a few righteous, right? Rav Shimon Bar Yochai says it's Bnei Ali is only me and my son. So then God sprinkled them throughout the generations, and also negative people, right, have been sprinkled throughout the generations. So when you see there's no more balance, it's not sprinkled out. That means we finished all that process, and now it's either going to Mashiach surely going to come. We ran out of God sort of said Lahavdil ran out of what he was trying to maintain, because we're not maintaining it anymore. We're moving to the next stage. Okay. Amar Alexandri. Alexandri says Reb Yeshuah ben Levi. This is the Gemara that you quoted. Sharna Amar Alexandria. Reb Yeshuah ben Levi Rami. Reb Yeshuah ben Levi asked the question. Now about Reb Yeshuah ben Levi, we're going to learn now about Reb Yeshuah ben Levi, the famous Gemara. Reb Yeshuah ben Levi meaning the Mashiach. Reb Yeshuah ben Levi from the Gemara. It doesn't say it clear in this Gemara, but it definitely alludes to it in this Gemara, did not die. Yeshua ben Levi went up as a human to heaven. He's one of the people, similar to Elijah the prophet. That's why maybe him and Elijah were buddies. So Amar al-Bechsandra said, Reb Yeshuah ben Levi Rami asked the question, Chsiv be'ita, it says Moshiach is going to come in its proper time. It means there's a deadline, that's when Moshiach is going to come. Uchsiv achishena, he's going to come ahead of time. So which one is it? Is he going to come in its proper time or ahead of time? And the part of the achishena kind of is the idea of the hastening, what you were referring to, that if it has to come in its proper time, it's going to come with the negatives. But if we have positive, if we're worthy, so to say, like it says, zachu, if we're worthy, achishani is going to come early. Lai zachu, if we're not worthy, then be'ita is going to come in its deadline. So on that, obviously,
We're definitely in the latter now.
I don't know where we are, but we're definitely, like I said, literally, it's not, if you think about it in a matter of time, 215 years until the 7,000 years, not a lot of time. And 15 years till tough is really not a lot of time. And yeah, we're definitely past, seems like both Ita and Achishena. Okay, so I thought there were some commentaries on this, they're not. So he says, oh, so Imlei Zachu, the Ein Yaakov says, oh, this is what then Yaakov says. Yaakov says that's why Yaakov wasn't able to give the end of days to his children, because Yaakov would have given the end of days of Be'ita. And as we clearly see, we're still in Gullus, and that wouldn't have been a good message to give the Jewish people 3,500 years ago. So because Be'ita is so far out, but Achishena, you can hasten it if you're going to behave properly. Okay. Amar Reb Alexander said like this. Amar Reb Yeshuah ben Levi Rami. Reb Yeshuah ben Levi asked the question as follows. It says, it's another famous Gemara. The Gemara says, Va'aru im anoni shmaya kevar enosh asay. It will come with clouds of heaven and one like unto a son of man, meaning to say that the Moshiach is going to come on a cloud. It's a famous idea. Moshiach is going to arrive on a cloud. And it says, Ani, as a poor person, riding on a donkey. So which one is it? Is he coming in the clouds, which would show glory, or is he going to be coming like a poor man on a donkey? So it's not so simple, the donkey, it's not so simple, the poor man. Zachu, if the Jewish people are worthy, is Imanani Shmaya with the clouds. Loi Zachu, if the Jewish people are unworthy, is Anani Reich V'Achamar, the Mashiach will come like a poor man on a donkey. Let's see if Rebbe Steinzot says anything over here. According to most opinions, the idea of the Chamor is more the image that we have of Mashiach coming.
But even poor people usually don't ride donkeys nowadays.
Nowadays, listen, Mashiach is going to come. So if he's in rerun, when we see a Gemorah in a second, that's going to talk a little bit about the donkey. Listen, this is the famous. Listen, the Ein Yaakov, I think, quotes. This is the same donkey. I think it's a medrash. The same donkey that Avram used to take Yitzchak to Lakedah. The same donkey that Moshe used to redeem the Jewish people is the same donkey that Mashiach is going to use. So it seems like more in the tradition is the donkey. The clouds kind of is more, although it's miraculous, it's not part of the story of the Jewish people. The idea of the donkey is connected very much to our story. Avram using the donkey, Moshe using the donkey. So he says, Rashi says,
in the Torah a lot, but it's more of a spiritual, mystical, protective type of thing than it's not a physical world.
Well, let's see. He says, Imanani Shmaya Kvar.
It's material too, isn't it? Materialist.
Well, Chamor is material. Chomer. So Imanani Shmaya Kvar Inish Asi Bimheris. He's going to come fast. So the difference is in speed. If he comes on a cloud, today you could say, is he going to come by car or by plane? So right, if he comes by a cloud, it's going to be mehiras, fast. If he comes on a donkey, it's going to be chamoira, it's going to be ba'atzlus, slow and lazy, kind of, driving the speed limit on the, in the right lane. So is Mashiach going to come fast on a plane, on a cloud? Is he going to come in a chamor ba'atzlus? Rashi says. Okay, now we're back to our good old friend Shvar Malka. Shvar Malka was the king again of Persia in the days of Rav and Shmuel. So King Safur, his name is. So he says Malach Shavor said to Shmuel. Shmuel was obviously the great Shmuel, which is the colleague of Rav, first generation of the Talmud. Risu, you say Mashiach HaChamar Asi. Mashiach is going to come on a donkey, right? He didn't subscribe to the whole idea of the cloud. So he said he was mocking the Jewish people, mocking Shmuel. He says, Ishtar le Susei, let me bring my horse, right? Not a slow donkey. Barka di Isli, let me give you my barka, which I think is a kind of horse of the days which is a good horse in Persia. So let Mashiach ride in my let Mashiach ride in my Cadillac. You want to let him ride in the first car. Amalei mi islach bar chivar gavoy. So Shmuel answered him a weird answer. It says, do you have a donkey that is full of colors? Meaning to say that's going to be a miraculous donkey. It's not, you're taking it too literal. It's not going to be the donkey the way you think. He says, Susi Barka. What is a Susi Barka? Sus Mesurak Umachavin V'noah Shesh the Gnayu Shiyavi Achamor. Megalgul Kaya. He was making fun of, meaning he's saying that I have a nice fast horse. Let Mashiach ride on a horse. So why does he have to go on a donkey? And Megalgul Kaya Lashnacha, and he was making fun of the Jewish people. Lashnacha Susi Batka Sus Padik Loritz. He was being practical. He says that, if you need it, Mashiach is ready. He could arrive on my a horse that's been badik is not a type of horse, but the horse itself was checked to be a good horse.
Yeah, well, a bigger issue will be if in the future at the 6,000 year mark, Moshiach hasn't come yet. They'll have to come up with a much bigger interpretation.
And then Mashiach's coming. Have no fear. The Gemorah says everyone agrees.
I won't be there anyway to check it out by then.
Oh, come before that. Okay. So, Rashi says basically the Adramad says that Shvar Malka was getting a little anxiety. He says if the whole reason why Mashiach isn't coming because the donkey problem, until you find the donkey, until the donkey is available, and all that, my horse is ready for you. That Mashiach come. He wanted Mashiach to come. Okay, so Rashi says like this about the colored. So bar chior gavoy kula yesh lechasus bar mei gavin. Do you have a horse that has 100 colors? Shachamar shaloi keinhum b'milsa ba'alma dachia. Rashi seems to say like he was just chior is 100 in Parsi. He was kind of just ignoring him or pushing off his statement. Let's see what Reb Steinzat says. Okay, he tells us who King Shapur was. He was the name of several kings in Persia. It's like a position, like Paro or Caesar. Shmuel was upon hearing the king Shapur had explained. Oh, so he says, when Shmuel heard the passing of King Shapur, he explained.
Last night, two gentlemen at a birthday party were speaking Farsi. I had to ask them, what is that? Well, that's Farsi, right?
So what's it mean? 1,000 colors. Rashi says 100 colors, right? Mea. Okay, 1,000 colors. The Aruch cites a variant reading that Kar Hazar Gavini. Kar is from the Middle Persian. Gavan is from the Middle Persian. I guess the type of horse that he was asking he had. Okay, let's just go further a little bit in this fascinating piece of Reb Yeshuah ben Levi and the Moshiach. Famous Gemorah that Reb Yeshuah ben Levi meets the Moshiach. Right, we have two traditions of the meeting of the Moshiach. We have Reb Yeshuah ben Levi and the Baal Shem Tov. So Reb Yeshuah ben Levi Eshkach Lelio. That wasn't uncommon. Reb Yeshuah ben Levi had many encounters with Elijah the prophet. We know that he even spent a day with him doing what he did, and he only was able to last one day because he couldn't understand what Eliyahu was doing. He didn't understand how he operated. But one time he meets Eliyahu. So Reb Yeshuah ben Levi went, I guess, to Miron, to the holy city of Miron, where there's the burial place of Reb Shimon bar Yochai, and at the entrance to the cave of Reb Shimon bar Yochai, he meets Elijah the prophet. We know that Elijah the prophet hangs around the righteous, right? So Amar Lei, Asani la'omid asi, will I be worthy to the world to come? Amar Lei, Mirza Adayin Hazeh, if God wants, if the master decides. Amar Reb Yeshuah ben Levi, Shnaim Re'isi v'kol shleisha shemati. So Reb Yeshuah ben Levi says, I see two people, meaning he sees him and Elijah. That alone is an accomplishment. But I heard the third voice, which was God. says Rashi says that's why Reb Eliyahu answered Reb Yeshuah ben Levi, if this master, meaning God, was the Shechina was with him in that conversation. Kol shleisha the Shechina hava badayu, the Shechina was with them in that conversation. Shechina is everywhere. It means the presence, the focus of the presence of God was in that conversation. So you want to know if he's going to come to if he's going to be worthy in to go to the world to come. The Marsha says, he says that he said when he says if the master wants, that he's referring not just to Reb Yeshuah ben Levi personally, but that the Jewish people who do tshuva, then God is going to be in a moment of ratzain, of want, and therefore they're going to be worthy of the coming Moshiach. Others say Rashi says that he heard the call the Shechina. Others say that it was Avram Avinu that he heard. Okay, Amr Lei, he said, Amos Asi Mashiach. He asked Elijah the prophet, when is the Mashiach coming? Right? Everyone wants to know, when is Mashiach coming? Amos Aika Asimar. Amr Lei Zil Shaila Day. Why are you asking me? Go ask him. Ask the Mashiach. Behechi Yosef, where does he sit that I could ask him? So this is a Gemorah that's being translated in many different ways, but the literal translation, he says, Apischa de Roimi, at the entrance of Rome. Umay Simone, how am I going to identify him? What are his signs? There's many people sitting in the gates of Rome. Yosef b'nei ani seiv l'chaloyim. He sits by the poor, those who are afflicted with like tzaras, with leprosies, with all kind of chaloyim, all kind of cuts and bandages. V'kulan shari v'asirei b'chad zimna. And how do you know? So again, the question still asks itself, how do I know which one's Moshiach? If a whole bunch of people are sitting there full of wounds and bandages, how do I know which one is Moshiach? So he says, this is the hint to identify which one is Moshiach. All of them will remove their bandages and I guess treat their cuts and wounds and then rebandage it at one time. It means they'll undo all their bandages. He only does one at a time. He unbandages one, fixes it, and bandages it back, and then goes to the next one. Why? Why can't he do like everyone else? So he says, maybe just when he's going to be undoing all his bandages, which is going to take a long time, right? It's a process. And then God's going to say, boom, Mashiach has to come. He's going to be busy trying to bandage himself back up. So he never wants to be too preoccupied. So he's always available to come and bring the redemption. So that's the identity. That's how you can identify Mashiach. So he says, okay, the question is, where's the gates of Rome? Not everyone agrees the gates of Rome was sitting in Italy, but the gates of Rome, either according to some opinions, are within Eretz Yisrael itself, based on the teaching that Rebbe learned with Antoninus. So there couldn't be that they had a tunnel all the way to Rome, although that's usually what we learned as kids. But the translation was there's some city in the north that was called Rome. Another idea is that Elijah, that this is a story based on Reb Yeshuah ben Levi being in heaven. He went up physically in heaven. So it was the entrance of Rome that is corresponding to the place in the Garden of Eden that corresponds to the entrance of Rome. So he says like this, Lididei the Mashiach. Hold on, Aaron, let me just do the Rashis here. Pischa de Karten, Nira lemoiri leive Pesach ir mamish. So here, Rashi says, Nira lemoiri, that my teacher taught, Rashi's teacher taught, that is not that he was at the gate of Rome itself. El Gan Eden, at the Garden of Eden, who connected kol ha'olam, that the Garden of Eden, this is a nice description of Rashi's Rebbe. The Garden of Eden basically is not a place that's disconnected from the world. The Garden of Eden kind of is a replica of the world. If there's different countries and different places in the world, that there is corresponding to those places, there is the Garden of Eden. And the place that corresponds to the entrance of Rome, connected kol, so he says Garden of Eden is connected kol ha'olam. He tells him, you want to know where in the Garden of Eden to find the Mashiach? Tzad shel Gan Eden, in the part of the Garden of Eden, shekeneged Pesachir Mashiach Shari, which is at the entrance of the city. So if Garden of Eden goes according to the old places of the world, he's at the place that corresponds to the entrance, seemingly, of Rome. He doesn't say Rome, he says Pesachir. Save the Chaloim, that the people, he sits among those who are sitting with sicknesses. Now you have to remember, if Rashi is learning that he's not physically in Rome, so who are these people in heaven with the bandages? Menugoyim, they have nega, they have leprosies. Hunami menuga, it's a famous thing that the Mashiach is also going to be a leper. Why? Because he has the sins, he carries the sins of the Jewish people, and it affects his physical body. And it says, "Chalenu hu nasa." He takes our chaylis, our sicknesses. Kulai mi sheyesh le'arba v'chamisha negaim. So the people that have 4 or 5 wounds, they undo them and do them all at once. Asir le'v'shar b'chad zimna. Masrin kol negas, and they undo all their bandages. B'yachad mekanchin, they clean them. B'chayzin u'mekayshin, and then they close them up. V'yu Moshiach sharichad, he only undoes one bandage. Mekanchin cleans it out. V'kayshin, and he rebandages it. V'achach machar acher, and then he does the next one. V'yisikein v'ein matish shnei negaim yachin, doesn't do 2 at the same time. Why? Why is he concerned to open up all his bandages, treat them, and then rebandage it? And either way seems logical, but either one is the sovereign. He holds. What happens if I have to go out and redeem the Jewish people? As Yisrael, the Jewish people shouldn't be held up because Moshiach. Where's Moshiach? We're waiting for him. He's doing his bandages. That's not going to be a good thing. Because I have to tie up two wounds. Again, all these are Aaron. What, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, so let's just say me, or probably not me, but one of my descendants, and they want to get to where Moshiach will be before he actually comes. Is there any possible way for that to happen? Or he's just going to come, no one has a clue, and it's just going to happen?
No, Mashiach is alive. You have to. That's I was just going to read that he says from here we see the Ashtach writes, Mashiach was born already by the time of the destruction, and he was taken from the people to the Garden of Eden. It says in the Medrash, and he's sitting by the gate of Rome, meaning in heaven, corresponding to the gate of Rome. Rome is not Rome. Rome could be New York City. Rome could be.
Okay. Let me ask you this: if I wanted to just play with my sense of time, because I'm just saying this to make sense, not that it actually happens like this, but let's say one of my descendants or me, if we ever find out, I want to get there 1 year before he does his thing. Wherever Rome is, we figure out where the real Rome is. Like you said, it could be Israel, it could be New York. So we figure out where it is. Could I get there 1 year before and
We don't do that. We want to be here. If Mashiach, look, if Mashiach is not going to unbandage 2 bandages, how long does it take to bandage 2 bandages? An hour, 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
No, nobody knows when.
Exactly. So there's no. So if Mashiach won't even unbandage his bandages, that's one of the questions. The question is that seemingly Mashiach himself doesn't know when he's coming. Why? Because it says he won't even unbandage, right? If he knows he's coming in 50 minutes, he has time to do 2 bandages at once. He won't do 2 bandages at once because he may have to redeem. So what do we see from that? Most of the commentaries answer that's the difference of Ita Achishena. He knows the deadline, but it could be any time the speeding of it could happen.
Okay, so let's just do one last thing. Could I find out where the real Rome is so that I could live there and have all my descendants ready?
According to some Farshim, Rome is in the north of Israel, or it's Rome, or it's Rome that represents the power of the world. So that Rome is not Rome today is with all due respect to the Italians, Rome is not the Rome of
and I wouldn't try to plan on that.
Yeah. So he said like this: he was taken from the people to the Garden of Eden. Listen to what the Ashtach says. It means he's not alive. And he sits by the Garden of Eden by the gates corresponding to the gates of Rome. So he says, why does he have to be by Rome and not in Uri Yisrael, not in Eretz Yisrael? He says it's based on the Maimon Chazal, Gemorah achas haisa chatzuva bein tzipori. So the Ashtach is one who answers that Rebbe lived in Tzipori and he had a ma'ar, he had a tunnel. That from that tunnel, Antoninus, which was the Roman emperor, used to come study. And he says he can't say that there was a tunnel all the way to Italy. So there must be a city of Rome that's in the north. But basically, according to the Ashtach, Rome is a city next to Tzipori. Or it depends how you look at the problem. Or they had a tunnel that went all the way to Rome. He says that wouldn't make sense. It would take months for him to travel on the underground passage to stroll through a tunnel from Rome to Israel. And he says that the Mashal says, I think it is Rome. Rome is Rome. But either way, it's most of the Mefarshim saying, and this is Rashi says, Mashiach is not physically in this world, in the city of Rome, but he's in the, so to say, the heaven corresponding. Now the question is, if that's the case, who are these people that he's sitting with? Because if he's sitting amongst the homeless or the people that are sitting with wounds in the city of Rome, okay, you can understand he's sitting amongst the Chevra. But if he's sitting in heaven, who's full of bandages in heaven? So the Marsha also accepts the Pirush of Rashi. So he says, "Who are the Shar Aniyim Tzoiv Lechalom Shu Yoish B'Neim Lo Yadana Lamahem Boim L'Sham?" The Marsha says, "What are they doing there?" So the Eitz Yosef says that in the Sefer Chassidim, it's talking about people who pain themselves to take upon themselves the burden of the sins of the Jewish people, so Mashiach should come. So therefore, they're worthy to sit amongst Mashiach, because these are the people who lived a life and accepted Yisurim upon themselves, pains upon themselves, in order to be able to take upon themselves the pains of Gullus. Okay, let's just finish the question, because we don't want to stop the middle of the subject. Okay, so he sees Mashiach. Now he sees him. He knows he identified Mashiach sitting amongst the lepers. He says, "Greetings to you, my teacher, my master." Bar Levi. He says, "Shalom." He identified him. How Shalom Aleichem to you, the son of Levi, right? Yeshua ben Levi. When are you coming? When is the Mashiach coming? He said, "I'm coming today." So that was the end of the conversation, right? What else could he say? So he met Eliyahu. So Yeshua ben Levi goes back and meets Elijah, the prophet. So Elijah says, "No, ma Amar lach." What did he tell you? He said to me, "Shalom alecha bar Levi." First, he said, "Well, peace to you, son of Levi," because he was Yeshua ben Levi. Because of that, you're worthy to the world to come, because he identified you by your father's name. But he lied to me. Yeshua ben Levi said the Mashiach lied to me. Why? He says he's coming today, but last night he didn't come. Now, according to most people, said that there's still time, but the idea was that he was saying that we know that the tradition is that he couldn't come today because Elijah first has to announce the coming of Moshiach. He says you didn't understand what he was saying to you. He was referencing a verse. Hayom, I'll come today, based on the verse Hayomim b'kol d'shmayu. If you listen to the word of God. If you listen to the word of God, I'm ready to come today. It's depending on you. If you guys are ready to do tshuva and listen to what Hashem wants, I'm here today. And if not,
Hayom could mean the day. It could mean Rosh Hashanah.
No, he meant to say Hayom is today. Hayomim b'kol d'shmo. That's where he quoted the verse of Tehillim 95. If you listen to Hashem, then it's today. He said Hayom, I'm coming today. Bayoim hahu, on that day would be with the base first, but Hayoim means today. So we finished with the Rashi over here. Mashiach said to Mashiach, he goes, why does he have what does it mean that he has that he's going to have the world to come, because he called him the son of Levi? The ilav tzaddik and gemurah atim, if not for you guys being righteous, absolutely righteous. He wouldn't have said hi to you. It means Mashiach doesn't just say hello, acknowledge anybody, but he acknowledged you because you're a righteous person. And the fact that he mentioned your father means that he acknowledges your father as well, which means you're both worthy of the world to come. And he says, if you listen to the word of God, so then you're going to be worthy for Mashiach to come today. Okay, we're gonna stop here. Maybe we'll go back a little bit next week to go through the commentaries on what Mashiach really answered Reb Yeshuah ben Levi. There's all the questions of what was Reb Yeshuah ben Levi's problem, and what does it really mean b'hayom? Like, that's the idea of ita achishana, that if you want me to come ahead of time, you have to do tshuva. Like Rav says, ein Yisrael negal nel b'tshuva. Yes, Aaron, you're on mute.
I want to make one comment. I think it's a little funny because it just came up in my head. If you're right, the Chabad is right that your Rebbe is Moshiach, then maybe I'm in the right place. I'll just stay in Brooklyn and watch him come, because this is where his grave is.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
Laila Tov, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi. Laila Tov.